Hi, everyone. I am so excited to welcome you all to the August meetup. And today we are going to dive into a very interesting topic, which I will mention very soon. So my name is Linda Nsifo, and I am the founder of Women in Research, Monitoring, Evaluation, and Learning. And basically, we are a community that seeks to accelerate the careers of women in the research, monitoring, evaluation, and learning space. So these monthly meetings that we've been organizing since the beginning of the year are targeted at providing a platform for professionals within the RML space. And even though the target group is women, we make them open because knowledge is meant to be accessible by all. So I hope that we'll make the most out of these sessions as we move forward. So I would like us to quickly engage in a short icebreaker. So I will share a link shortly. Please let me know if you're able to access it. And then I'll also share my screen so that we can all follow along. So this is the link to the activity. So it's basically a Jamboard, which has a number of questions, just two of them basically. So the first question is, why is communication important for a research, monitoring, evaluation, and learning professional? So basically, to add any content to the sticky notes, you just have to go to the text box, you click on that, and then you just indicate which of the sticky notes you would like to enter text. Or you could also just duplicate, and then you can edit what I've already typed in there as a sample. And you can also enlarge the sticky note as well. Yeah. So let's give ourselves about 5 minutes for this activity. So maybe 2 minutes for this question, and then we'll move on to the next page or next frame. So why is communication important for a research, monitoring, evaluation, and learning professional? If for any reason you're not able to access the Jamboard, you can also type your response in the chat, and I will also read it out. So any thoughts, please feel free to share. There's no right or wrong answer. We are all here to share our opinions and our views freely. So it could be in a sentence form, or you could type a word. So far we have one, which is articulation of project results. Okay, so for those who just joined, you're welcome. We are engaging in an icebreaker. So we have 2 questions that we'll be answering. The first one is, why is communication important for a research, monitoring, evaluation, and learning professional? So let me just reshare the link to the Jamboard. So there's a Jamboard where we have to share our responses, or if for any reason you're not able to access the Jamboard, you can type your response in the chat and I can read it out. So to access the sticky note, you click on the text box and then you specify which of the sticky notes you'd want to type in your response. Or if anyone wants to unmute and also share, that's also fine. Okay. I think because of time, we'll move to the next question. So what challenges do you face with communicating project results? If you don't have any challenges that you've faced, you can also share any successes that you've had in communicating project results. So that's the second question. So anyone can unmute. You can also fill the Jamboard, or you can also type in the chat, whatever works for you. So Jamboard is basically a collaborative tool. So if anyone is new to it, it's also very useful for brainstorming sessions and basically putting ideas, sharing ideas in the team as well. What challenges do you face with communicating project results? If you do have any, you can share. If you don't have any challenges, you can also share your successes. Okay, I'm sure we are thinking about it. Okay, so I think we can share as we go along. For the sake of time, I will just dive into introducing our speaker for today. So our speaker for today will be speaking on the topic Mastering the Art of Communication as a Research Monitoring, Evaluation and Learning Professional. Her name is Gifty Boatemaa Annan, and she's the co-founder and CEO of Westlion Co., a female-led venture builder headquartered in sub-Saharan Africa, Ghana. She is responsible for the strategic leadership and overall direction of the firm. Currently, Gifty doubles as the Executive Secretary and Membership Services Assistant Lead for the Chartered Global Investment Analyst, CGIA, Institutes, Ghana and Nigeria. She's the founder and president of the Africa Female Entrepreneurs Community, a genocentric network of resilient female entrepreneurs across Africa, curated by Westlion Co. under the Women Entrepreneurship Program. She's the country representative in Ghana of the Women in Finance and Investment Network, headquartered in Mauritius. As a business communication expert, she offers leadership communications, training for professionals of every sphere, an enthusiastic professional with a multifarious ability to operate in various sectors of business. She has a lifelong passion for contributing her quota to support and empower female-led businesses and entrepreneurs with functional knowledge and entrepreneurial skills and resources to surmount startup challenges to run, grow, and sustain lucrative businesses in Africa. Gifty is a proud product of Ghana's premier university. She holds a bachelor's degree in social work obtained from the University of Ghana, which is Ghana's premier university, and is currently pursuing an MBA in finance. Her wealth of knowledge and experience spans startup acceleration, business development, and structuring, business communication and public relation operations, corporate research, management, and corporate event planning and execution. So, Gifty, I would like to welcome you up to the stage. So happy to have you speak to us.
And you
Can we
can
see your
let me
beautiful
try and see if I
face?
can. I look a bit messy, but I will try and see.
At least maybe for the first 2 minutes.
For the first 2 minutes. Do you see it?
Yeah,
Oh,
I see you.
I'm a very shy person, so I would try as much as possible. I'm showing my face a little and then I'll be going on. Just
Sure,
like
no
that,
problem.
right?
That's okay.
So hello everybody. Can everybody hear me? I want the class to be a bit interactive because I have just about 30 minutes to go. Right after that, I'm running off to church. So I want the class to be as interactive as possible so that the little time we have, we can enjoy it together. Are we good?
Yes, we are.
Okay, your people
yes,
don't talk.
Well, There's a response in the chat. So Susanna said, yes, we can.
Susanna, okay.
I think people are at work, so
People are at work.
yeah.
Oh my goodness. That's a lot of
They'll
pressure on
manage.
my life right now. Anyway, so like Linda said, my name is Gifty. I love to be called by my local name, Boatemaa. Just a young girl trying to live a life, grow a business, and do the best I can. Truthfully, M&E is not really my thing. I don't really even know anything about M&E. I don't even understand. But Linda, being the pro, says that she's going to guide me today to also guide me today. So you help me help you. And so I would love to have a lot of conversation with you. First of all, I realized Linda was asking what challenges we've been having with some of the things you've been doing. She also asked the fact that whether or not you think communication is important, even for you as an RMEL professional, someone who is into monitoring and evaluation. Do you think it's important at all? And we'll have some few answers as we go along the line. Can you see my screen?
Yes. Yes, the screen is
okay.
visible.
Is it okay? I'll have to do something to it.
Oh no, it's fine.
It's fine.
It's good.
When you look at the second slide, these were things that I wanted us to cover, but unfortunately, I'm not sure we can cover everything. Maybe we'll take like the first 5 or something, and then maybe, I don't know if we'll ever get another chance to do that, and then we'll get to do it. But simple, just like Linda was saying, I'm going to talk about the importance of communication in, I simplified it to M&E. And then we're going to talk about types of communication, of course. We're going to talk about some challenges that mostly people face. And then we will talk about overcoming these barriers. And then hopefully we can deal with a few practices. All right, so let's get into it. I wish I was gonna ask you questions as in why is communication important, but she's already asked, and so we're going to get right into it. First of all, someone will ask what is communication and why communication. We live in a world where it's practically impossible to not communicate. Even the God that created the heavens and the earth chose to interact with his subjects or the people he made through communication. The Bible says that in the coolness of the day, God would choose to come down to communicate with Adam. And it wasn't just a ritual he was doing, it was far beyond that. He was trying to give us an understanding of what fundamentally preserves relationship on the earth and what fundamentally brings people together and makes sure that goals are achieved. And it can be seen in every facet of life. It can be in relationships. We can tell the number. Most of you we are all women here. I can't see any male. And so we can all tell there are relationships we might have even had. Probably not sexual, that's not what I mean, but it could be even friendship relationships, relationship that has to do with family that has gone south because of improper communication or lack of communication. And so the subject of communication cannot in any way be undermined, not even in the smallest way, because it has become for all men the foundation for building. And it's non-negotiable. It's everywhere in the world. Go to the restaurants and we are communicating. Come to the offices and we are communicating. Go pick a public transport and the mate is going to communicate with you. Whatever you find yourself doing, some way, somehow you're going to find some bit of communication there as a way of sustaining relationships and keeping things moving. And so it is with every profession. I would say that monitoring and evaluation is not different. Even for you, you realize that most of the things that you do is, predominantly put out there, or let me say, your results and everything you do are communicated to your stakeholders. Whether you like it or not, there are stakeholders involved in the things you do. And so at the end of the day, you are always reporting back to these stakeholders on exactly what your findings were, and as to whether you could create change from there. And so whether these stakeholders are your funders, or these stakeholders are team members, or these stakeholders are your bosses or community members, whatever project you are one way or the other involved in is going to ensure that you're communicating at one point or the other. And so basically that will be that. Why is communication important in M&E? I started by saying that it's the basis for planning and coordination. I wish we could interact, but I don't think I have an interactive audience. I mean, when it comes to like people who are going to speak or that, but for any project, for any program, for anything to begin, it starts with communication. So let me even put it this way. There is always an intention somewhere that needs a response. So whether it's going to be a project, or I'll just say if a man is planning to marry a woman, let me take it from there. The first thing he does is that he expresses his intentions, all right? Either through verbal communication, non-verbal communication, whichever way, that intention must be clearly expressed. Now, once the communication is expressed, it becomes the basis for planning and coordinating that particular event. And so if I want to go to a community, let's say I want to go to one of the communities nearby to do a project for the entire community. Now, it starts with me thinking about it and then going ahead to communicate it. And then it becomes the basis for our planning, what exactly I want to do. So once the intentions of the one who wants to do the thing is clearly expressed, then it gives us that grounds to be able to start proper planning. And then once we start planning, then we can properly coordinate the entire thing. It facilitates data collection. I wish anybody could give me, I see a chat there, isn't it? Oh, please, we're welcome to drop your questions or comments in the chat. Okay, that's fine. That's okay. So just like Linda said, you can drop your questions and your comments in the chat. If I'm not able to answer them, I'll definitely direct them to Linda to answer your questions, okay? So that's it. Anything you want to ask, please just come out with it. If I can answer them today, I'll go and find the answers and bring them to you the next time you meet. It facilitates data collection, of course. How do we collect data? I remember some years ago when I was in level 200 in the University of Ghana, I used to work with this research company called Trend. They were at Jolu. I don't even know if they're still there. It was very close to those of you are familiar with that Jolu. I think this popular restaurant over there close to the dome, and they were just behind the restaurant. I was working with them, I think level 200, and we were collecting data in various communities for the establishment of, I think, public waste places. So we went into the community and then we had to engage and interact with the people. That means of communication helped facilitate data collection, where we spoke with the people, we We asked them what exactly they needed, whether they think the project that is about to be undertaken was important and was relevant to them. We needed that. Communication aided our data collection process. It enables effective analysis. Of course, after the initiation of a project, after a project is initiated and you go through execution and performance is ongoing, there must be an analysis, you know. And once you're doing that analysis, it's definitely going to go through communication. Once you analyze whatever you're doing, you're going to communicate it. No matter the means of communication, whether you're going to use audiovisual communications or you're going to use verbal communication or you're going to use written communication, whichever way, communication at some point will have to come in. It supports decision making. Now, I think the entire work of an M&E, let me say the end game is to be able to provide such relevant information to help people make informed decisions, because the end game is to ensure that an action is taken. The end game is to ensure that something happens. The end game is to ensure that there is transformation or change is created. And so once you are communicating well, your findings and your end results then is able to also help support the decisions that are taken thereafter. It facilitates learning and accountability. I'm sure you would understand this. It actually helps build healthy community relations. And so let me not even use community. Let me use healthy industrial relations. In our workplaces, in our homes, I was even explaining it earlier. Everything we do is based on communication. You are in this group because Linda makes communication clear and precise for every one of you, because communication is constantly ongoing. You have a healthy relationship in the community because there's communication going on all the time, whether Linda is sending emails or she's actually calling each one of you, or she's sending social media messages, or she's posting on social media. There's something going on every time that makes sure that every community member is abreast with what is happening. Okay, who is speaking at this month's session? Who is taking us for this month's session? What's the topic? You are abreast with all this information. So it helps keep the community healthy. Once communication is constantly being properly, engaged, then we have healthy communities. And then we would say that proper internal functioning. Not so different from what I said, but it's just like your offices, the proper internal and external. Let me even add external functioning to it, because in your workplaces, like I was saying, let me use the stakeholders for example. You have probably different stakeholders you are dealing with. Let me say you are dealing with donor organizations, and then you are dealing with community members who are supposed to be the beneficiaries of the project. And you are dealing with your project manager. You are dealing with several people, both external and internal. The only way that the functioning of these relationships can be, can be smooth and produce proper results is only when communication is being done right. And so you are going to need communication to ensure that there's proper internal and external functioning of your teams, of your organizations, and even your relationships. So basically, these are the things I put down for why it's important to have communication, why communication is important in M&E. Lord. Take the next one. Linda, are you going to do it for me? Because I'm not able to do it. Okay.
Are you okay now?
Yeah,
it looks like it's fine now. Okay.
Yes, it's very fine now. It's very fine now. Okay. Let's Okay, so we'll talk a little bit about the principles of communication. It's not just in M&E, it's not just in R&EL. It cuts across every sphere. As far as communication is concerned, there are 7 principles that guides communication and makes communication effective. Number 1, we're looking at having clarity when it comes to communicating, no matter where, no matter what you are saying, no matter whom you are dealing with. You want to ensure that the information that you're giving out there is clearly expressed. There are no ambiguities and there are no double stands as far as your communication is concerned. And so once you're given an information that is clear enough for people to understand, then you know that you are going to achieve the kind of results that you intend to achieve. Secondly, we're looking at communication that is concise. Mostly, I think one of the things that M&Es find difficulty in adjusting is the overload when it comes to data. Data overload. Most of us don't even understand a lot of data and things out there. And so if you're communicating to stakeholders who are not as technical as you are, and you don't make the communication simple to grasp, then it actually becomes like a barrier to communication. It becomes a barrier to, whatever you are trying to achieve whilst you communicate. And so you ensure that what you're communicating, you ensure that you take out the most important part that makes it very simple so that you don't add everything on, confusing the stakeholders involved. Number 3, we're going to talk about communication must be concrete. It must be concrete in the way that you must know the facts. You must know and be sure of what you are saying. Precisely with the work you do, there are no room for mistakes. Maybe I should have started by giving us maybe the difference between general communication and probably professional communication. And when you study that a little bit, you realize that when it comes to professional communication, there is a standard and there is a format to communicating. But when it comes to general communication, people don't really adhere to rules. But when it comes to the work you do, which fits into professional communication, there is a format involved. There is a format demarcated for communication. There is a channel for communication. And there is a right way that meets the standard. And so you must ensure that you are meeting the standard per what you are sending out. You're meeting the standard of your organization, or you're meeting the standard of your work. And that's what I mean when I say that you must be concrete. You must be so sure of what you're doing that you don't send out there something that will, at the end of the day, come back to haunt you or the people that you're working for. And so it just ties into the correctness of the data or the results that you are churning out. When you're giving out the data or you're giving out the information, the knowledge garnered, when you went out there, probably, let's give an example. You are working on a project, or you're monitoring and evaluating a project on, let's say, students in Chebi. And these students probably have a problem with mathematics, all right? And then you have put together your monitoring plan and then your evaluation plan, of course. And then your people, you ensure that the stakeholders, who are the students, the teachers, are involved. Now, you put the teachers through some kind of activity. Probably they stay with the students for probably 3 months, taking them through some mathematics courses. And then after a period of time, these students are assessed. When the students are assessed, you have to come in, evaluate, make sure that at the end of the day, you see whether your findings are tallying with the results of the teachers. if it doesn't tally, you should ensure that you are presenting the right thing. If probably the teacher is giving us, is probably doubling up the percentages and doubling up the numbers, and then you go in and then you evaluate and you realize that the results that the teacher brought was incorrect, you ensure that as a professional, you ensure that you bring their attention to these things. If it was 15% of the students that were able to hit the mark at the end of the 3 months, you ensure that these are the results that are going out there. And then there must be coherence. When we talk about coherence, we are talking about consistency in communication. Just so that every single one of the things we are talking about here, the principles, they tie into each other. And so if we're talking about being coherent when it comes to communication, it simply means being consistent in your delivery. It simply means that not doing different things and saying different things, giving us different results. Be coherent with the results that you are coming with. Be consistent. Build on the previous results. Let us see clarity. Let us see through the thing that you're doing. Let us see exactly what you're building from point A to point B, so that people can clearly follow. When they see the results that you have given, when they see the reports that is coming in, people can clearly pick the reports and say, okay, this lady moved from point A and then she built on this to point B, and now she's actually at point F. And then there is a clear path where people can follow the consistency of your reporting and your analysis. And then communication must be complete, of course. We know the dangers of giving half-baked information. If you give an information out and it doesn't include the total all other things that make the results solid or that makes the results valid, then of course that information is not valid enough to be presented. And so if you're probably doing a project or you're working on a project and you don't have all the facts together, you do not want to present it as if this is, 100% the fact there is. You have to ensure that you're making people know that this is not the entire fact, but this is 50% of it. There is another part of it that will be, added up later, or you don't have all things together. So make sure that when you are reporting or you're giving out, there's always that completion when it comes to communicating information. And then it must be courteous, of course. As a professional, you can't even, this is not even negotiable. It's not negotiable in every aspect, whether marriage or whether business or workplace, whoever you're communicating with, right down to the nursery, right down to whoever you're dealing with, there must always be courtesy involved. There are three styles of communication I'll mention quickly. I didn't even put it in there. I'll mention the passive communicator. I'll talk about the aggressive communicator, and then I'll talk about who we call the assertive communicator. And the thing is that at all times, you have to ensure that you are an assertive communicator, because these three communication styles differ in these ways. It's just simple. Number one, for passive communicators, they are always putting others ahead of them. And so, like I gave the example of the teacher who is a stakeholder in what you are evaluating or monitoring. If the teacher's feedback or the results he produces is actually different from what you see, a passive communicator who is an M&E professional is likely to drop what she has and then put ahead what the teacher has. And so just probably for peace sake, or probably doesn't want to get hated, probably wants the teacher to feel okay or whatever. That's what a passive communicator will do. So in reporting, a passive communicator is likely to put a result that is not, up to standard ahead of hers, because she doesn't want to really step on toes. When it comes to an aggressive communicator is one who does not take into consideration the feelings of others at all. Could be even in a relationship. Probably you've had a boyfriend who was like that, or a friend who was like that. Everything they say is right, and that's the end of the game. And these people are aggressive communicators. They don't take the feelings of others into consideration. It's only about them. These are toxic ones. But then we have the assertive communication, and that is what I think is a style that if you inculcate in reporting, it helps everyone. So with assertive communication, it comes to the point where you respect the other person and then you respect yourself. And so there is always that middle ground. If the teacher's reports were wrong, you present yours to, you make him understand, and then you show him clearly where he went wrong. Okay, when you did the analysis and then you came out with this, I also came out with this, and I think this is where that mistake was made. You clearly make them understand. You don't just impose your results on them. And it cuts across, even in a relationship, if you're in friendships, even with friends, if you want to have an opinion or you want to suggest something, all friends are trying to probably make a trip to the zoo, and then you don't think it's a good idea. Okay, what do? As an assertive communicator, you tell them that, okay, I understand the fact that everyone wants to go here, but I think, what do you think? Why don't we consider this? That's what assertive communication is. However, it is such that it is firm, especially when it comes to professional spaces. That kind of communication is quite firm, especially when it has to do with reporting and all that. Even though it ensures that every other party understands why we have gotten to this point. Yeah. All right. So communication with stakeholders. At this point, I'm going to ask some of you to probably write. You may not speak, which I know you want, but just write. I want to know the kind of stakeholders you deal with. Maybe I want to have about 5 of them in the chat box. Stakeholders as MNE, who are you? Which people do you deal with? Which stakeholders do you deal with? Have you been dealing with personally? Okay, I see a message. Community members, okay, local communities, okay. Community members, organization, okay. Government, okay. Okay, and we have 2 more. Funders, okay. Oh, it means my people are listening. Oh, that's fine, okay. Okay, that's fine. So I have funders, I have program sponsors, donors, farmers, NGOs. I'm not really familiar with your terms, so Charlie. So I have program sponsors, I have donors, okay, other members of organizations. Beautiful. Okay. All right. So thank you so much. Okay, I see the last one coming in. Is that okay, program team members. All right, thank you so much, Vida. Program team members, that's fine. I appreciate that. Communication with stakeholders. It's exactly what you do. Everything you do as M&E professionals, you are engaging stakeholders. At every single given point, you are engaging a stakeholder, either your funder, you just mentioned, government, you just mentioned team members, you just mentioned farmers, people are dealing with health practitioners. The work of an M&E cuts across, you get to deal with diverse range of people in various, okay, I think I'm seeing another program management team. Okay, Vida, thank you so much. So we are going to classify these people under internal and external. And of course, I'm sure by now you know those who are internal and you know those who are external. And so if you're looking at you mentioned team members. Team members are internal. We communicate with team members through internal communication. We communicate with government as an external communication. They are not part of your intimate team. They are not part of your innate team. They are not part of your organization's people. So they are external people that we communicate with externally. All right. And so mostly communication styles differs when it comes to these two people. And when it comes to internal communication, that which guides our internal communication is what organization call the organogram. Organograms are exactly what guides every organization's internal communication. If any of you have seen your company's organogram before, probably you see your CEO at the top of the organogram. And then you're going to see probably your CFO probably come next. Some people have CIOs that will also come, probably will share a diagonal stage with CFOs. Then you may come down. Let me just come down to project managers. You may as well come down to M&E professionals. You may come down to people who are into sales. There's a point where you see an HR filling a spot on the organogram. Now, this organogram is what actually directs the conversation in organizations. And it tells people who to talk to and by what means. Who do you report to and at what time? And through what channel do you do your reporting? All right. So without organograms, it becomes difficult for internal communication to be fluid. There is always that rigidity because people are not totally aware who they are directly reporting to. So you have people enter an organization or a new recruit must be introduced to the organization's organogram. I don't know, I'm sorry, but I'm thinking every one of you know your company's organogram. So I didn't even bring that here. So yeah, if you know your organization's organogram, then spot on. You know exactly who you are reporting to. Probably you have a supervisor. For each project, there is a project supervisor. And so for any project you're doing, you may have a supervisor you are directly, dealing with. With your team members, so under that internal communication, we're going to have probably some 3 directions of communication. Number one, we're looking at vertical communication. Vertical communication, which is also still coming under internal communication. Vertical communication is where you are reporting probably directly to your superior, or you are reporting to someone even senior to the one who was directly senior to you, to your CEO, to your HR. I'm going for counseling, or channeling your grief to your organization is a vertical communication from down to top, which is going to be an upward communication. And then you have what we call the downward communication. The downward communication is where your bosses are actually sending information directly to you, whether through emails or through any other kind of thing. See you tomorrow. Sorry, that was my colleague. So you're looking at vertical, you're looking at that upward communication, then you are looking at the downward communication in internal communication. And I'm saying that these things are totally guided by our organograms in our organizations. And so you mentioned team members. These are stakeholders, team members. You have what we call the diagonal communication, where these are people you work with in the same department, in the same unit, or they may be even in a different unit, but probably at the same level as you. This is normally what we call the diagonal or horizontal communication, and it all falls under internal communication. Now we come to the external communication, where you are totally dealing with people who are outside the organization. You are dealing with people who are funders, you are dealing with donors, you are dealing with government officials, And communication styles differs. When it comes to internal communication, of course, so there are times where for people you're in the same team with, sometimes you even send them WhatsApp messages. Maybe you even send them, you call them just, hello, what's up? What's happening? I think, can you check, even for the boys, if you check this project, give me those kind of things. And then if you're looking at people who are ahead of you, there is always that a lot more formal way of dealing with them. And so through emails, through presentations, you have to go and do a presentation to your boss when you find you finally get you're done evaluating the project or the program, and then you have to present your finding to them, and then you do a presentation. External communication, when you are dealing with funders, of course, you cannot deal with them as if you are dealing with your colleagues or your team members. Mostly there are presentations where you are drawing the lines and showing them the drawing board. This is what we said we would do. This is where we've got into. These are the percentages involved and all that. However, there are other external people we communicate with that the tone and the style of communication is informal. You're looking at, someone mentioned farmers. You don't write emails to farmers. You don't write, you don't send memos to farmers. All right. Even though they are external people we communicate with, these people also have their unique way we communicate with them. When you're having a community engagement, mostly you come down to the level of the community members. Even in the language you use, sometimes you change the language you use. So in the office, you are strictly sending emails by English, or if you're in a Francophone country, probably French, Spanish. But when you come, probably you are in Ghana, and then you are doing a community project and you're having a community engagement. Mostly you resort to the local languages. There are different ways we communicate with these people, because if you do not come down to their level, they would miss whatever you are trying to communicate with them. And at the end of the day, we miss out on the end game of the project we are trying to run. Okay, I think I've already dealt with this. Sorry. Did I close window? Please forgive me.
Don't worry.
And I hide my face a little. Okay. Jesus. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, clearly.
Okay, good. Okay, good. So I'll hide my face a little and go on, then I'll come back. So
Sure.
let's consider a few things. Let's look at some of the challenges of communications when it comes to MNE. And so
sorry, Gifty, your
yeah.
slides are not showing anymore. Okay, yes, they're back. Thank you.
Are they big enough to?
Not in presentation. Okay, now it is in presentation mode.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're looking at overcoming some challenges of communication in MNE. And when I say communication, it's not just in MNE, is in different parts, professional communication. Number one, you're looking at data overload. In simple terms, even when you are talking to someone and they give you so much information per time, most often you're likely to miss certain salient aspects of the communication. It is a general thing that we all go through, and same applies to M&E professionals. When you're trying to put across your findings, or you're trying to put across whatever your final evaluation gave you, you must ensure that you declutter the data. Now, by decluttering the data, you focus on the most important aspect of the findings. You make sure that you sieve through the findings, and then you bring to bear the most important aspect that overshadow other aspects. And that is how communication becomes more effective. Because once you're given everything, people are not able to differentiate between where they should focus on most and what they should give least attention to. And that becomes the duty of the M&E professional to do that decluttering for the regular stakeholder. If you are communicating with your funder or your donor organization, and you are bombarding them with data upon data upon data, and they don't understand that the end result is that you are not likely going to get the support that they must give to you. And so you must always ensure that, your data comes clean, because you have done that background work on it. Make sure that you have separated the least important things from the most important things. Okay. Next one, we're looking at technical language. Now, every organization have their own technical language they speak. That is why when you come to M&E, you guys have a language you speak. You have your language. It's just like we have accounts and we have others. When you come to the professions we do, when you enter the hospital, they immediately say, okay, we're taking the person to the ICU. It's a language they speak. Okay, we are performing an EC on the person. Health professionals have a language they speak. All right. And when you look at the way they speak, because of the urgency with which medical problems are presented to hospitals, they can't even give us the full meaning of the things they do. So you realize they speak in, what do we call it? Abbreviated terms. Okay, the person is actually being admitted to ICU. The person is in emergency. They are always abbreviating it because it has become their technical language to be able to accommodate the kind of urgency that comes with medical problems. Someone has gotten a heart attack, someone is dying, someone just had an accident. You can't now come and say that you are taking the person to, or you are coming to say a whole long thing. No. That's why they have adjusted their language. And when it comes to M&E, I believe that you have a technical language you speak as professionals. However, if care is not taken, this language can become a barrier to the people you are dealing with. And so when it comes to communicating with stakeholders that are without your enclave, which is your M&E people, I'm sure the people here, you are all professionals and you're very technical in your approach and the way you do things. But if Linda is actually talking to, maybe Linda has the opportunity to do a presentation or communicate something to people in 8th grade. I'm not expecting Linda to use the technical language that is so above the understanding portal of this child. I'm expecting her to be able to adjust to the understanding range of her audience. And that is exactly what it is. Even for funders and even for donors, even as big as they are, as huge as their support organizations may be, you may be dealing with people in the organizations who are not necessarily familiar with the technicality of your conversations. And so if you don't take care, it can become a barrier or a challenge in communication. Stakeholder engagement. This technical language even fits into this as well, but stakeholder engagement is broader, all right? And so stakeholder engagement. You mentioned farmers, you mentioned other people. Let me concentrate on community members, farmers, and all that. If you don't properly engage stakeholders, you are not likely to get the accurate data, which would, at the end of the day, ensure that the project becomes a meaningful one. So I mentioned that when I was in level 200, I joined a research firm called Trend. During our interactions and engagements with these stakeholders, we had to ensure that the engagement with them was thorough, as basic as it could be, yet as thorough as it could be, in order that it could direct the meaningfulness of the project at hand. And so there were times we were engaged with stakeholders that would actually go a long way to massage the project idea we have on paper. And so when stakeholder engagement is not properly done, it can affect the effectiveness of the entire project. Basically, limited resources, challenges of communication learning. Of course, this is not even most of you were mentioning funders, mentioning donors, because resources are involved when it comes to project management, when it comes to project execution, when it comes to programs. There's always resources needed to ensure that the project is done accordingly and is done up to standard. And so when there's limited resource, it affects the entire project. Let's say you have to go for a community engagement session, and then even the buses to carry you there is not available. The resource for transport is not available. How then do you go about it? It becomes difficult to properly, amass the kind of fundamental information you need to give the project that push. Resistance to change. Like I mentioned when I was starting, the end game of what you do is to ensure that change is initiated when necessary. Is to ensure that there is transformation where need be. And to ensure that at the end of the day, systems that are not working are put to work. And so probably you are dealing with government. They are the people who normally resist change. So I'm going to use them. You are dealing with government. I hope that Bright is not a government official. Bright, are you? Are you a government official? I want to hear you. Say. The way you, yeah, Bright, can you hear me?
Yes, I can forgive you, but I'm a government official.
Oh my goodness. I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
No, you are different. You are very
No,
different.
we are learning. We are learning. So
You're
it's fine.
learning. Okay. I'm so sorry. So sorry. So like I was saying, we know that our people in leadership, they hardly listen. Sometimes they try to. For the sake of Bright, let me say that sometimes they try to, but it looks like there is a robust system that prevents people in leadership to adhere to change. More probably because of bureaucracy, probably because of stringent systemic procedures and all that. But then when you are doing your project and you are running evaluation, monitoring things, let me also give you a clear example. I was working directly with the planning officer at the Ghana East Municipal Assembly some time ago. That was years back when I think I was in level 300 or level 100. And I was supposed to be monitoring their public hearings at the time. Now, there were times that I would go that the planning officer would keep me in his office, serve me drinks, give me chicken and all that. And when we are done, at the end of the day, I'm not saying I wasn't reporting the right. I was very young. I was a child at then. I think, like 100, but I needed the money, so I needed to go into work. So, like I said, the first one I mentioned, I said I was level 200. So you realize that I was working all through campus. I was never in class, lectures, call lectures. But sometimes when we go there, the kind of conversations we have, the planning officer, you realize that he was communicating something. Sometimes he was trying to say that change is difficult. Even after the public hearings, even after they heard the community speak, he was always trying to ensure that I get that down. I get to understand that it's not as easy as I see it on paper and I'm reporting it. It's not as easy as I'm taking the people's concerns right from the public hearings to the books. But for me, of course, Mayor Somafo, I didn't really have much to do with that. I just had to, report as I've been instructed. So sometimes there's resistance to change, and that becomes a barrier to communicating what must be done. Lack of trust. I think for this, every professional must be able to build their portfolio such that people can trust them. It's not even just in the work environment. Your friends must trust you. Your spouse must trust you. Every aspect of life that is important to you, you must have people in there who trust you. Because at the end of the day, it will count. What you say will matter. When people don't trust you, your reports don't count. When people don't trust you, the things you say don't count. And it will become a very frustrating life journey if you don't build a career that is centered on trust. And so for whatever thing that you're doing, today I almost told Linda, I want to postpone the meeting. You can ask her, because I just actually ran in from town and was just running around, and I just came in. I had to just come and put a few things together. And I almost told her that I want us to postpone because I don't want to come and not deliver well, and she was like, oh, I should just try and do what I can. But you see, at the end of the day, if she had said the resource person is not coming, some of you would actually form some kind of opinions about me. Some would say, oh, this girl, what is she? And who is she? She doesn't even, adhere to meetings and times, and you put her on a program, she cancel at the last minute. What kind of person is this? So I had to show up. So whatever it is, y'all need to forgive me. I hope that we are on the same page. You boy are not talking. None of you.
We are with you, Gifty.
You're with me. Okay. So overcoming communication barriers on MMU. So I think I've even mentioned them along the lines when I was talking, where you prioritize key messages. This is like the solution to the data overload. Prioritizing important findings, prioritizing important information. That is where the meat is. So you declutter, you separate, you ensure that you have the things that must be known on top and the rest taking the bottom seat. That's how you prioritize key messages. You use clear and simple language. That's what I was talking about. This is like the solution to technical language. And so depending on which people you are dealing with, you use a different kind of language for them. Oh my goodness. You use a different kind of language for them. Engaging stakeholders. It's important, it's non-negotiable for the kind of work that even with many other work, like let's say doctors are supposed to take care of patients. If the patients come in and the doctors are not able to engage them before diagnosing them, they are pretty much likely to misdiagnose, because it's just the work you do is just like you're a doctor. So if a patient walks into a hospital and then the doctor does not properly engage the stakeholder, and in this point, the stakeholder is the patient. If the doctor doesn't properly engage the stakeholder, all right, the stakeholder will not be able to come out with what is actually wrong with them. Because there are times you go to the hospital, you can't even pinpoint exactly what's wrong with you. And so they are able to follow the pathway of your communication to deduce that, okay, this person is sick of fever. This person is having probably an abdominal whatever. But if there's no engagement between the doctor and the patient, there cannot be an effective diagnosis where that will lead us to proper medication. All right. So it's just the same with the work you do. Tailor communication to different stakeholders, of course. I've already mentioned that depending on who you're dealing with, the language you use for your funders would have to be different from the language that you use for your community members and your supervisors and your bosses. Use feedback loops. I think this is a major point that we need to take into consideration. Feedback for every communication session or every communicative engagement at any point, feedback is important. I didn't start with the basics of communication because I knew that at this point you're all at that level. So, but when you look at the communication chain, you find out that there's always that sender, and then the sender who sends a message, and the message is sent through a medium, or we say a channel, and then that channel, the message is sent to the recipient, who becomes, all right, the decoder, and then that recipient sends feedback. Given a clear example, let's say you woke up this morning and then you texted your boyfriend, or bride, you send a message to your wife. Your wife has traveled, and then you sent her, hello, honey, how are you doing? And then 3 hours after the message has gone, there's no response. 4 hours, you're almost closing from work. Wifey has not responded. You haven't had feedback. I mean, you sent the message through a medium, through WhatsApp. You are expecting that your wife will get the message, decode the fact that you want to exactly know her state of being at that point, whether health-wise, psychological, work-wise. I mean, in totality, how are you doing? And you don't get that feedback. It becomes a problem. And so you are likely to follow up and ask, is everything right with her? But then that silence gives you a prompting. That silence that does not enable feedback gives you a prompting. It prompts you that probably 1, there's something wrong with her. 2, maybe her phone is stolen. 3, maybe she's too busy. There are a lot of internal feedbacks that you will generate because she hasn't responded, which probably none of them fits the original answer she was actually going to give you if she had responded. And so it's just the same with stakeholders and engagement with stakeholders, funders. If we are not getting feedback from the people that we are trying to do well for, we are trying to advocate for development, we are trying to initiate transformation in these communities, in these organizations, in these workplaces, if we are not getting the needed feedback, then the work that we are doing does not take the accurate shape, because it's until we get feedback, then we are able to modify, we are able to rectify, we are able to fine-tune our projects, we are able to fine-tune the things that we are doing to properly hit the target. If you're not getting feedback, of course, you are not going to be able to hit any target whatsoever. You will hit, but it might not be exactly the way that it ought to be. So feedback is very important. And so if you're a professional and then you shy away from feedback, I mean, we work with people. Sometimes we do things and we are scared to ask for feedback. We are scared to ask, am I doing well? Am I doing well? We are scared to ask our partners, what aspect of this relationship are you not liking? Sometimes we are scared to face reality and we are scared to face truth. And so we leave them uncovered. And we, at the end of the day, in years to come, it becomes a problem to what we're doing. And it is the same thing that applies to the kind of work that we do. Okay. still be here, but I'm gonna. Linda, can you still see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, what do you see?
I see overcoming communication barriers in M&E.
Okay, that's fantastic. Okay, so, oh shit. All right. We are going to, I'll be wrapping up briefly so that we can all find our way from there. Okay. We're going to talk about briefly, maybe one last thing or two last things, and then we go. I wish I could hear from every one of you, though.
Yeah, I'm sure there'll be questions after you've concluded. Yeah.
Okay, tell them they can start sending
in the questions.
Yeah.
Sure. Participants, you're welcome to send in your questions and I can read them out for you. Or you can also unmute and then you'll be given the chance to ask Gifty questions directly. Okay, Gifty, back to you.
Okay. So participants, you heard that. I would want you to send in your questions so that we can address them as quickly as possible. Okay. All right. So in MLE, how do we evaluate or how do we assess the effectiveness and the impact of communication efforts on our program outcomes or on our program findings? How do we evaluate? First of all, I believe that if we have clearly set communication goals, then it makes it easier to evaluate these communication, the outcomes of our communication when we are done. So at the end of the day, if you are running a project and you want to set a goal as to what you want to achieve after you communicate your outcomes to the various stakeholders, what you want to achieve at the end of the program, what do you want to achieve at the end of the project that you're doing. If you have clear communication goals stated, then you know that, okay, so you set a goal that at the end of the project, you want 100% understanding from all stakeholders. You want to have understanding cut across all stakeholders. You should have communicated your outcomes in a way that all stakeholders involved have a clear understanding of your project outcomes. That is a communication goal. So if you have this goal and then at the end of the day, you realize that there is a mismatch, a particular category of stakeholders have not been able to fully grasp the concept of the project, then you know that communication did not properly sit down with them, or then you know that there is much work to be done. At this point, you also want to develop indicators. Indicators that are able to measure the impact of your effort. That has to, what are the indicators we're looking at? We're looking at the level of knowledge consumed. All right, we are looking at the attitude of the community members. And so these are some of the indicators that becomes the measuring, the measurement, whatever, for what you're doing. So you're looking at the end of the day, did the community members change? Okay, maybe there's a project that is happening in Jamestown. Is it a lot of people use the sea for too much, waste, outlets. They use the sea as, letting out waste. And then your team, this network decides to go ahead and then construct or put up a place for these people in Jamestown to use, a community place. And then at the end of the project, you don't see a change in the attitude of the community members. These people have not changed. Not at all. They are still using the open sea as their place of refuge, as their place of freedom. Whilst the place you put up as your project is there, then you realize that clearly these are indicators that are telling you that the project had a hitch somewhere. And so it didn't really deliver the kind of results you are looking. When they gain knowledge, then their attitudes can change. When they gain knowledge, they understand knowledge, they are able to assimilate it. Then now they are able to use the knowledge wisely. And if they use it wisely, it becomes what's success for the project. And so these are some of the indicators that you can actually put in place. Like I said, one other way to, it also ties into what I said, using feedback loops. Of course, if you notice that a project did not yield the results, the needed results you were looking to have, you definitely have to go back to your people. And this is going to be through communication. And these communication ways could be in different ways. First of all, I know you all know what the verbal communication is. Second, I know you all know what non-verbal communication is. Third, I know you all know what written communication is. Fourth, I know you all understand what audiovisual communication is. We live in a world today where all communication channels, I would say, are being used on a daily basis. And so if there are people that today are using social media to communicate a lot of important things. So if, let's say you do a project and then you want a wider community to come to terms with this project, to understand the project, you may choose to use social media. Social media has different forms of communication embedded in it. It's a visual communication platform. It's a written communication platform. We write on social media. We show data on social media. There are so many things that we can do via social media. If you're using verbal communication, depending on which stakeholder you are talking to, you either talk to them face to face, you either video conference them to understand where the problems were or to communicate your results to them. You are either using face to face, that's verbal communication. Face to face, you're using oral communication, you are talking to them on phone, and whichever means you're using to communicate with them. When it comes to written communication, like I said, even social media inculcates a number of communication channels. Like it has to do with written communication. On social media, we do audio communication, we do video communication, and so all kinds of communication is in there. And there is that other aspect of communication where we call the non-verbal communication. The non-verbal communication, well, now some people pay attention to it, but of course, we still don't really pay attention to non-verbal communication, but it says everything. Sometimes an entire project can be saved if the people are able to read the non-verbal communications of the stakeholders involved, like the community members, like the farmers. Even when you are doing a presentation on stage and then you have a look at the facial expressions of the people in the room, and then you are able to tell that these people don't understand what I'm saying, then it helps you to quickly change the language that you're using or quickly assess the means of communication you're using and see if probably that is the reason why you think they are giving that kind of non-verbal feedback you are getting. And so when it comes to non-verbal communication, we're looking at communication like body language, which of course, I don't know if M&E, you do so much with non-verbal, but it's still a part of communication. So let me just put it across. And once you are dealing with human beings, you will meet these things because human beings have always had a way we communicate. And whether the person is a community member or is a funder, a donor, a government official, most of the times there are things they don't say that are as much loud as the things that they say. And so there's a proverb that says that, I think there's a quote that it says that some things is so loud that I can't hear what you are saying. He said your actions are so loud that I'm not able to hear or something what you are actually saying. And that's how non-verbal communication works. And so when it comes to non-verbal communication, you are looking at body language, how the people are expressing facially, how the people are fidgeting, okay? The kind of way that they are walking, the kind of way that they are dressing. There are people that you can meet and automatically you can tell they are doctors. Meanwhile, they have not orally communicated with you. But just because of the way they dress, it has become a non-verbal communication aspect of their lives. And so if you meet a banker, if you meet someone who is in a suit and tie, you are likely to say that these people are bankers or these people have something to do with the finance field because there's a way they are dressed. And so those are the things that you also would have to look out for. The kind of ways that your stakeholders are, the kind of things that they do without necessarily saying them gives you clues and gives you all the things that you need to know or the feedback that they may not be able to say. It's just like all of you here that you are not talking to me. I'm actually forming an opinion in my mind as to what is happening with all of you. I don't know, probably I'm still thinking, okay, maybe these people are not getting what I'm saying. Okay, maybe this is not exactly what they expected, or maybe, so there is feedback one way or the other, but it's just that it's not verbal. And you have to be able to look at that aspect as well. Do we have any questions yet, Linda?
No, I don't see any questions in the chat.
Okay.
But probably there might be very soon, hopefully.
Okay, Bright, are you not asking any question? Vida, I'm not seeing you ask any question. Gladness Kampa, I'm not seeing you ask any question. Linda Kamloma. Joy.
Okay. Okay, Vida says she's driving, so.
Vida is driving. Okay,
Yeah,
Vida, I'm
okay.
sorry. Drive safely.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hi,
Hi.
my namesake, Linda.
Oh, okay. My name is Akamomo, and I'm from Malawi.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Oh my goodness, I can't hear anything.
Yeah, the
Linda,
line is breaking.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, it's better now, Linda.
Okay. All right. Thank you. In your presentation, you have made different modes of provide feedback to stakeholders, and depending on the type of stakeholders that you're actually engaging. But I just wanted to find out what is the effective mode of providing feedback to the stakeholders when it comes to progress of the implementation of the program. Because what I've learned is, for example, most of the time, if you share progress reports with stakeholders, most of them are not able to actually go through the reports because there are many pages and everything. So you just share the report for formality's sake, but when it comes to the effectiveness, it's not that effective because most of the stakeholders will not have time to actually go through the reports. So I just wanted to find out what is the effective mode of providing feedback to the stakeholders, and also the time frame in terms of how often are we
I think there's a cut here.
supposed
Linda,
to provide feedback to the stakeholders? For example, I can hear you.
Okay, yeah, I can hear you.
Yes. So those were my two questions. I don't know if you got the second one.
Yeah, I think you were mentioning what's the frequency with
Yes. When it comes to providing feedback to the stakeholders.
Okay. Okay, that's fine. I think we all have senior colleagues here who would be able to help us with some of the answers. So, but I'll take the first one slightly and then attempt the second one whilst other people also help out. I think that's, you see, that was a major reason why the first one that has to do with it, you were talking about the fact that when you send your feedback, your projects to the people, it's just for formality. They don't even go through it because it's bulky, right? It's bulky. That is why I kept mentioning that when it comes to communicating effectively the project findings and all that, one of the things that you have to ensure that you do is you declutter. And so probably, I don't know if it's allowed where you work or whatever, you may have your bulky research and your bulky work done. But aside that, make sure that you have very digestible content on the side that captures the salient aspect of the project that you have done. And that one, you ensure that you communicate it such that if the person doesn't go through the bulky one, they are able to still get the central message from the brief one that you do. Most of the times we don't do it because it's not part of the formalities that we are given. But if you want to really, really reach the intended, people that you have to reach, then you have to ensure that you take that time to declutter. So your bulky research is needed. Like I said, formality is formality. But then at the end of the day, you have to ensure that you are also building a pager, a one-pager, a two-pager that captures the most important aspect of the project that you have done. And it makes it easier for these people to get back to you. It might not have been solicited for. They might not have solicited for it because they want to prove as though they read the things that you send. But from experience, you just made mention that they don't read it. All right. So if they don't read it, how then do they respond accurately to the work that you have done? All right. So it means that you have to find a way to give them the reason to read by giving them something that is easier, even with employers who are employed. Now they are all telling us that they don't want bulky CVs because they are not reading. They can't read it. And so if you, the one coming in with the work, you don't make it easier for them, at the end of the day, you won't get the intended results. All right. Is there anybody here who wants to add up?
Hi,
Right,
Gifty.
I'll call you. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, you're spot on with your response. So from my experience, like working with the organization I'm with, so we do have like summaries of all the projects. So like we have a specific document which summarizes all the project results or like the progress that the projects have been able to achieve within a period of time. So some projects report quarterly, some semi-annually, some annually. It all depends on the funder, because each funder have they provide their requirements exactly. So then you have to abide by that. But then I think that some allow room for negotiation, and I mean there are also things that as M&E professionals we can speak up about if we think that the approach might not be very efficient. Like there's a way that we can communicate that, not to underestimate their authority, but in terms of, because they're giving or providing the funding. But I mean, it's also good for them to, I mean, it's also good that you provide or like you speak up about things if they are not working well, because probably they might not know, genuinely, they might not know that probably it's not something that is efficient or might not achieve like the needed results as you intend it to be. So also for you as the one preparing the reports, you also don't want your time to go to waste in quotes, like you're preparing this huge document but no one is reading. Yeah, so I think it's just coming to that understanding, okay, that is it okay if I provide the stakeholder like a summary of our projects over time instead of having this bulky document which no one really wants to read. Yeah, so that's what I'll add as well. Okay, I think Gifty has dropped off. But do we have further questions? Or maybe any contributions? I can take them until she bounces back. I hope, Linda, your questions have been addressed. Are you okay?
Yes, I'm
Okay.
okay with the responses. Thank you.
Okay, great. Okay. Oh, Gifty, you're back. Any more questions? Yeah, we've gone a little beyond time. I thank you that you've all been able to stay on till this time. Thank you so much. Much appreciated. Gifty, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Linda.
Okay, great. Okay, so I don't think there are any more questions.
Okay.
But you
and,
could probably give your final remarks or just a takeaway if for anything, something that we can brood over for the rest of the week.
Okay. I think I would say that there is a quote I'll leave with you. I think.
Yeah. And also, how people can reach you if they want to get in touch.
It was this man who said it. Let me just get it. I think I'll leave you. Bright, do you want to reach me?
Do I want to?
Bright, do you want to reach?
Yes, I very much want to reach you. Actually, I work at NDPC, at the MAE division. So I would very much like to reach you. Also because I got this link from GMF. I don't know whether you are a member. Gifty, did you hear me?
Hello, Gifty, are you there? Okay. Okay, so I hope she got what you were saying.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sure she will make her contact details available and then I can circulate.
I'm also
Because I am
leaving.
on the GMF page though, so I could share later on.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So please, before you drop off, if you could, okay, I have your email address. You could
Yes.
also provide feedback on today's session. And also if you have any suggestions for topics we could tackle, please share as well in the form. So it's a Google form. I've shared the link. So please provide feedback before you drop off. Hi, Gifty, you're back. Hi, Gifty. Can you hear?
Let me just use this.
Hello? Okay, you're back.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that's why I don't know. My network is very bad. So I
Yeah.
was trying to get the name of the person who even
Okay.
mentioned whatever. But what the person said was that he said knowledge is important
Okay.
and it cannot be overemphasized. However, communicating it is everything.
Okay.
Okay. So what the work you're doing is so important. The knowledge you are bringing to bear, the outcomes you are coming with is so important. However, it can get lost in the midst of many things if it's not properly communicated. All right. We just had someone from Malawi, all the way Malawi, telling us that you can have a bulky project outcome and then it's not properly attended to. It becomes a formality. But the work that you are doing as professionals, the monitoring, the evaluation, the outcomes, what you're doing is that you are creating change. If you're not getting the needed results, your passion is likely to die out. Right? If you're not seeing the improvement and the transformation in the lives of the people that you are fighting for, you're advocating for, your passion for the job you're doing is likely to die out. Unless, of course, you're not passionate about what you're doing. But if you are in there because you're so passionate, then I would ask that every one of us would take this communication thing seriously. And then at any point that you realize that what you are doing is not being given that much attention, go and reassess your communication channels. Go and reassess the way you are putting the information out there and create the change that you want. Y'all are the change makers and we love you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Gifty. I think we can all do well to appreciate her in the chat. You can leave a comment for her in appreciation for her time. Thank you so much for sharing such priceless nuggets with us on the topic, mastering the art of communication as research, monitoring, evaluation, and learning professionals. And yeah, this is where we'll draw the curtain. So in the chat, I've left some links. So the first one being the feedback form. And also you can follow Women in RML on Twitter, now X, and then on LinkedIn. And also you can check out our past recordings on our YouTube channel. And yeah, please do stay tuned for our next meetup. And hopefully I will see all of you again. Thank you all for joining today. So grateful. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Linda. Bye.
Thank you so much,
Bye.
Gifty. Thank you, Linda. Thank you,
Thank
Bright.
you,
Thank you,
Linda.
Vida.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Mhm.